Oh, sorry.
You are muted. Is that a new feature too?
That's not a corporation. Okay. Thank you all for coming this evening. Is anybody else coming?
Ruth is expected.
Okay, Ruth and Brandy.
She's not coming.
Okay.
She's obligated.
Okay, that's right. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for showing up on time. And let us review last month's, no, we didn't have it in August, did we? Sorry. July 26th, you can read those quickly if you would.
Did you like what we planned to have for the budget?
Pardon?
Did you see that we planned our meeting for the budget this week?
Yes.
That worked well this week.
This is where that should be. Because I can't hear a word she just said.
She didn't want you to hear.
I know, that's the whole of it.
Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? I would entertain a mo-
Everybody turned some books.
Yeah, I know.
You would find it. That's why we turned to look.
So I wasn't going to say anything, but since you.
Oh, gosh.
expected.
I really.
One thing that will come out in the session now is one thing we talked about on the trails. I mean, on Emery Square.
Yep.
Was the longevity of the fencing that we might purchase might only be good for a year. We had a discussion about that and then decided to go ahead and get prices
Yes.
and go from there. So there's no mention in here that, which is fine,
No, we can put that in.
but that's how it came.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
thought getting the prices would help us define the time period of its longevity, because I see he got three prices. And, one is short term and one is longer term. So the other two. So
So I'm fine with not changing it. That was an issue.
that was an issue.
And the other thing is, in here it says, I would kind of even vote for striking. It says, Carrie asked a question of where Sally got the information from. Sally was speaking from personal experience. First of all, Carrie Everett is, I'm sorry, she's listed in the front, okay. Sorry, I didn't see that in the attendance. I was thinking of somebody who is Carrie, she's not on the advisory committee. So that's okay, it's covered up above. But Sally from personal experience doesn't mean she personally is educated about it and read up about it and knows about it. It's not a personal.
Yeah, actually, that didn't read very well to me either. And I know she asked what my references were. And I have read quite a bit about it, but I didn't have off the top of my head the sources that I got it from. Plus, I have had personal experiences, but that really wouldn't have fit in with this, I don't think. I mean, it doesn't read very well at all.
What would you like it to say?
I just thought personal experience sounded like she said personal experience with carbon.
Well, I have read.
What I
this
think it
number.
meant was she said personal experience with motor vehicles on the trail.
I thought it was her opinion more than experience.
Well, no, I have had some experience
My point
on
was
the trail.
educated, it wasn't just whatever.
But it
I'm probably leaving it at mainly it was every Carrie Everett. I see that is at the top. Virtual Bell, Matt, Carrie Everett. So I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Sally isn't, but she's not changing it. So I'm not.
Yeah, I don't care what y'all do with it.
Okay. Any other comments? I would entertain a motion.
I move we adopt the minutes as printed.
And a second.
Seconded.
Becky, all in favor? All right, thank you, everyone. New business, we have discussion and action on the facade improvement program application for Maine Laboratories LLC, and I don't think maybe you know, but there's Ken Baker's old yellow place. What's his name? Richard,
Yeah,
is the paperwork in order?
the paperwork is in order.
Okay.
The applicant is present, willing to provide you with an overview of what they're looking to do and field any questions.
Would the board mind if she spoke?
No.
Claire.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So we just closed on the property yesterday, and if you've driven, yes, that's right. If you've driven by today, you've seen us. We've already actually started some of the work. So we had a dumpster out there this morning. Our plan is to remove a lot of the overgrown, the brush that's around the house and the barn. Because it is covering up, there is some pretty significant damage and wood rot. And I brought some extra pictures because I know the scan didn't do a great job. I don't have enough for everybody, so if you don't mind sharing, yeah. So part of our plan is, of course, to remove the extra brush that's kind of up and on top of the building. We need to repair the wood rot, and then we've got a painter who's willing to come in and scrape and prep and paint the entire building, which is great. It definitely needs it, and I think I mentioned it. Or I mean, I've got the application on my phone, so I hope you don't mind. I didn't bring a printed copy, so I'm referencing that here. So I think what happened the last time it got painted was it just was the front face, the porch side, and the front of the barn. And so what's happened is the rest of the house, there's some deterioration that's happening because of that. And so my hope is that we're able to actually help with the funding to do the whole thing, because I think it will help preserve it. And I mean, that's very much important to us as owners, right? Because we want it to last for a little bit, but also because I'm a huge fan of old homes, and this house really presents itself, it's a beautiful building, a beautiful old building. It just needs a little bit of love and care. And then the other kind of larger item, the other two big items, one is the window repair. So you can, I don't know if you see on the very front, the upper barn window's been broken for quite some time. There was a pretty healthy pigeon roost happening up on the second floor, which my husband got hazmat suited up this morning. And, oh yeah, they cleaned that all out. So that's the interior has been taken care of, but we need to repair the broken windows. And there's quite a few on the building. They're pretty old, and so we don't believe we're going to be able to replace them pane by pane because of the age of the windows, and that they're basically falling apart. And then the last item is the signage, which I did put a mock-up of what the signage could look like. On the front, Richard, I found Signworks through your advice to call down to Belgrade Lakes area. They told me who it was to use, and they were super helpful in mocking this up.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you aware, and Rich, did you talk to her about the facade? It has to be visible. Did you talk to her about that?
So she's aware of all the components of it.
Okay.
We also have this flexibility in terms of where it's visible from,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So something like Frederick's Dairy Tree rules have been accepted because of the desire to help customers.
Okay.
See the back of this.
I'm not sure. One would argue that you wouldn't see Frederick's in the travel way either.
Maybe we have to visit this way.
What kind of lab are you?
It is going to be an analytical chemistry lab, and we're going to be doing testing primarily on water and groundwater, and we're specifically looking for PFAS.
Are you going to be doing it for towns or for individuals also?
We'd like to do it for everybody that is interested in doing PFAS testing. So we hope we're on the path to accreditation right now with the Maine, the lab manager for the state of Maine. Once we're accredited, we're going to be opening it up. We absolutely are going to be talking to towns to see if that's something that they're interested in. We know that there's a backlog in PFAS testing right now. So it's taking, 4 or 5 weeks for people to get results back. And we hope to be able to do it much quicker, within 1 week, 2 weeks max period of time, because that's all that we're going to be focused on is testing for that.
Have you done this type of work before, or what's the background? How did you get into this?
So my husband's an analytical chemist, and he's familiar with the equipment that's used. It's an LCMS triple quad that is the primary piece of machinery that you would need to do it. He runs a research lab right now himself, and we've got another co-founder who has helped start up labs before, and he's a research scientist. They both work at University of Kentucky.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're based out of Kentucky, but we have property up in Abbott, Maine. So we usually spend our summers up here. I grew up in Belmont, which is right outside of Belfast on the coast. My husband's from the Dexter, Skowhegan area. He went to Skowhegan High School. So that's I like to say that because I think it gives me some street cred, I hope, around here. He graduated from University of Maine with a chemistry degree, and then he wanted to go into academia, and that really requires you to move. You're really supposed to move out of state and go to another school so that you can booster your resume. And so we've been a little bit around, but we always talk about how do we get back to Maine, and the job market is tough here. It's tough to find the equivalent of what he's got. And so when we saw the gap, we've been watching the PFAS kind of news coming out. And when we saw the gap there, and he's got that background and experience, I'm a project manager, program manager by trade, and I've got a heavy history in learning, development, and HR. And so I said, listen, I'll do all the work, the project management to get us there. You do the science, and then we'll kind of combine our efforts, and that this might be an opportunity for us to build something that allows us to come back to Maine.
awesome.
Yeah.
Will there be a living space? Not initially.
No, not initially, because we have our space in Abbott. So we're in Abbott right now while we do the renovations. Knowing that there will need to be probably more oversight to get this up and running, we're going to have a tiny apartment space upstairs that if I needed to come up in a, quick hit and have some place to stay, but it's not going to be residential. We're not going to be renting it. It's not going to be anything like that.
Are you going to be Maine residents, but living in Abbott?
Yeah. I am going to switch up my residency for here. And for the time being, I'll be working. I'll spend the majority of my time here in Maine, and then, go down to Kentucky when we have opportunity for me to do that.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Promising. Yeah.
It's something that I'm sure the state of Maine will be very thankful to have.
We have we think is going to be an aggressive growth plan because of the backlog that I mentioned. And then there's some other things happening in the industry that we think will increase the need for testing. One is the EPA is about to, or they've already said that they intend to take 2 of the PFAS compounds and actually label them as hazardous material. And if that happens, then that will open up the door for more litigation for manufacturing, plants that are actually, PFAS is an output of what it is that they do. So more litigation. I mean, I'm not going to say that that's good news, but it does mean that there'll be more of a need for testing. And so we're already interviewing, and we have actually 2 really good candidates that we hope to hire in the next, we will hire our first person lab technician in the next couple of weeks. And then if we get the volume we think we're going to get, we'll probably get a second lab tech within, I would say, 6 to 9 months. And then we'd also like to offer a service where we have a field technician who goes out to a property to take the sample themselves. And the reason that's helpful is that PFAS sampling is actually one of the places where you can have contamination, because you find it's PFAS is in lotion and shampoo, and it's in clothes like stain resistant or water resistant goods everywhere. So if you have somebody who puts lotion on their hands and they go to take a sample of water and then they just touch the inside of the cap, that could actually contaminate that sample before it even gets to the lab. And so we really do think that there'll be good growth in Norridgewock for jobs, and it's a different type of job that would be available.
Awesome. Question.
So all your business would come from individuals?
Well,
Business?
it's like a five, they say like a three-pronged, stool. I think it's like a five-pronged stool. So you've got individual homeowners who are not, I don't know if you've heard about the Maine DEP is doing testing on sludge and septic spreading sites, right? I think Fairfield was a major one. So they have a tiered response to that. And right now they're in the middle of testing for tier 1. So there are homeowners who sit in tier 2 or 3, and that is because they're either further away from where the original, spreading was, or maybe they're like the topography of the land says it's probably unlikely that that it would have kind of spread to your land. So they're in a later tier. So you have homeowners who might be impatient and want to know right away. So those people might reach out and ask to get tested right now instead of waiting until 2025, because that's when the DEP is going to be done with their testing. You've got hunters who are under the no eat order, who have meat in their freezer, and they might want to have that tested so that they can feel comfortable eating the deer meat. And then you've got farmers who are identified as organic right now. There are some farms that are getting PFAS tested, and they're actually like advertising like these eggs are PFAS free. So that's another one. And then we will be accredited. So certainly we could do a contract with the state agencies, right? So that's DEP, that could be, the ag area. And then I'll be working with our PTAC resources, procurement, and technical assistance to be set up to hopefully get some sort of federal contract as well. Because we will be, we're woman owned, I own 60% of the company. We're in a hub zone. And then I also qualify for economically disadvantaged. So we think maybe that will help us get some sort of federal contracts. Did I get to 5 prongs? I don't know if I did. I don't know if I did 5.
That's good.
There's a lot of, the market is huge.
Yeah.
That's good.
Do you have a long range goal, like say in 5 years or something like that? Sorry, asking too much.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't have anything formally in a business plan on that. I'd love to be at 2 or 3 lab techs and at least 1 field technician here for Maine. We will be accredited. We'll shoot for accreditation in New Hampshire and Vermont just because of the regionally so close. We think it might be advantageous to get accredited in Kentucky too, since we've got close ties. We have a lot of connections there. It's a little tougher up here, right? I'm making connections as I'm doing business, but in Kentucky, we've been there a little bit. And then I'd also like to get accredited in West Virginia because that's right near Kentucky. So if we needed it, right now in the property, we have capacity to triple the size of what we're going to start out with on day 1. So we've got plenty of room to be able to do that in that commercial property, which is super exciting. Yeah.
The testing is actually done in that building.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
will this site be your headquarters or?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
More questions?
So what windows specifically?
There's some pictures next to you too.
Right. You had said the back, but also we are a facade.
Yeah. Well, I could argue, I can see the back of the property from over here. If that helps, I don't know if that helps at all.
I think you can see that house quite a bit. Definitely the
Yeah.
side by Linda's house. You can
Yeah.
definitely see that.
There's value in that too, but it is a facade program. And I've been in this seat unfortunately before, where what you do for one, you open it up for everybody. So you've got to make sure that you can see all the areas. The way it looks to me. It's nothing to do with
It's okay.
you, it's about his facade program. We'll change the facade program if you want it something. But to have somebody come in and they get the windows throughout the house done. what do we say to the next person who comes along and they've got a barn that one neighbor can see in the back? I mean, the whole idea of this facade program was to improve Main Street. People come down and Main Street looks more revitalized and successful and everything else. And Maine is notorious, exactly what you inherited here, where two sides of the building were painted. That's what showed. I know, you know, we got a place in 1950, we're told, don't ever paint the back, the taxes will go up. I mean, it's bred in Maine, you know. But whatever, I just think we have to be careful that we're opening up the door. Other people could come in and expect a walk around works. And is it really improving Main Street to do the whole thing? I mean, look at what we did with Hardee's, and look what we did with the auto place. You know, they either had to tip their building or whatever, we wouldn't do. We've been very
Right.
strict about that.
Well, you paid for 360 degrees of the dairy tree.
Right.
You also paid for picnic tables, trash bins.
And they
So I
are,
think when you talk about Main Street proper and historic preservation and the fact that arguably it is seen from public property,
well, the
the
dairy
argument can be
tree is a business where people drive around in the back and eat.
but it's not a facade.
They're not gonna drive around in the back here to drop off their specimens, and maybe if you open up a rear window.
Right, maybe.
But Frederick, there is a back.
Yeah.
So,
It's a pier, it's, the facade wasn't written that way and an exception was made. So I'm just laying it all out.
Right.
Equal application, does it fit within the scope of the program necessarily? No. But exceptions have been made.
and I just don't know how we would piecemeal what is, like, looking at this, what would you not pay for, I guess?
If you take 1/4 of the painting, it's gonna reduce the total project
If you did-
cost by 3,000.
If you did what you did for Hardee's and you did what you did for the auto place,
Did we do the
I mean,
back
it sounds
side?
crazy, but there would be maybe the back wouldn't be part of it, but still you're getting money. You know, and there are other things in here, I can't read much of this, but it looks like some of the expenses are buying a chainsaw, is that right?
Yeah, to do because we're doing a lot of the manual labor. I changed my clothes to come in today, so you wouldn't have to see the dust on me, but yeah, we're doing a lot of the work. To keep costs down, of course.
With Whitmore's restaurant, did you do the back side on that?
On what?
On what?
On Whitmore's restaurant, is that the name of it? The restaurant down the road? to
Six penny
Waterville?
jug, did we do the back?
Oh, Whittemore's, oh, the,
I don't think we prorated it out because the costs were so high.
I thought we only did 3
We did
sides.
3
Do you remember we were
sides,
talking
that's
about
what
the
I
air
remember.
conditioner?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did air conditioner. and
We did 3 sides.
Yeah, I think, yeah, Wentworth's. You're talking about
Wentworth's, that's
Wentworth's.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
The name of
that
the
doesn't sound like
restaurant.
that one. There we go, yes. You were close, it was a W.
And Everett's, how about downtown? Everett's, remember,
Well, they've got the drive-in, the drive-through.
no, they have, that's right. But the fire station, little fire, old fire station. Drew, do you have an opinion?
Sure. Well, one thought was, you know, sort of hate to sound like a wonk, but you know, like a public policy discussion about what we're doing. Because some of the stuff we have very clear, limitations on and parameters and the like, and then other things, we're sort of relatively new committee on the general scheme of things in comparison to the select board that's been around a lot longer than we have. But you know, we've got this, you know, $25,000 ceiling for projects. I think, is that what it is, Richard, 25,000? The grant part would be 25. So if you had a $100,000 project, you couldn't apply for 50, say, you can only apply for 25, as much as 25. So, you know, we already fixed up that property for the previous owner. So it's a public policy discussion about whether you think, well, you know, if they sell it in 6 months and somebody else comes in and says, well, what I gotta do is change out those windows. You know, is the idea just, we don't care who owns it, if Main Street looks better, let's invest in it. Or are you saying, well, this is an end run around the $25,000, doesn't say $25,000 per owner, you know, so about $25,000 investment in a project like 47 Main Street or 63 Main Street or something like that. So, I mean, I think to me, that's sort of a threshold question that we have to answer. Are we saying we don't care who the owner is? If it's a worthwhile project, we're gonna put some money in it. But, others could say, well, wait a minute, Ken Baker just got $12,000 to fix his driveway and do all these other things. And it was, it wasn't like it was 16 years ago. I mean, I think it was
Last year.
Big
was it
years.
last year? I don't know.
Yeah, so that grant was 4,300,
Right.
and this grant requested fully awarded is 12.
Well,
Yeah.
Gloria's, I
Well,
think, was
16
3,000 or
now.
something, and she didn't use it all.
What's that?
Gloria's was about 3,000 and she didn't use it all.
But
And she also has been in business in town.
McIntyre's downtown was I think, the full 25, was
Yes,
Yeah, it was full 25.
and we did not prorate out windows or siding or anything for that application.
We did, I remember have some discussion about the fact he was gonna do some of the work himself
Right,
and contract that out, and this is, you're doing the work
You're
yourself.
doing
The stuff at the top, yeah, the manual labor about removing the
That's kind of a first.
brush across it.
right, but in terms of prorating out the siding or the windows, that was the question that Sally asked, did we do it for the restaurant? And we didn't do that for the restaurant. And we did allow credit for the restaurant to do manual labor themselves. I think it was a $25 an hour credit that we allowed.
So for the restaurant, we only give them credit for 3 sides, is that what you're saying?
No, we didn't
We didn't.
reduce any of it.
Got it.
And which we did 20 or 25 kind of matters too.
Pardon?
What we did 20 or 25 should matter too, right?
I didn't mean,
He wanted to do the work himself. I mean, normally we ask for estimates for what
Right.
place or whatever. He wanted to do the work himself. Do we pay him $25 an hour?
And it wouldn't be, you would be paying me or my husband the $25 an hour. It would be for, we've got some helpers on hand. So it would, I would pay checks. You'd see exactly how much money I'd be able to give you the canceled checks for what was going to that.
Drew, you're a lawyer and your comment was a little bit hard to understand. Could you tell us in layman's terms what were you trying to say?
It just, the public policy discussion about what we're using these funds for, even though they're not taxpayers' dollars. Is the goal to just improve Main Street, which is a legitimate goal. If that's it, then we don't look beyond that. And if,
It's just all.
oh, there they are. But implementing that goal is where it gets trickier, so I'm just raising the issue about if Katie doesn't keep the property as long as Ken did, and they sell it in 6 months, and somebody comes in with an application for a $50,000 improvement with the grant at 25,000, we say, well, it improves the property. If they sell at the end of 6 months, et cetera. So does that clarify it?
That's very interesting.
Well, I mean.
No, I understand what
Because
you're
we
saying.
use these funds to make improvements,
Yeah.
and they were good improvements. I mean, his driveway was,
Yeah.
use a legal phrase, was crap, So, but it's using a legal phrase.
the program right now is per property.
It is per property, so.
But isn't there something about
So we'd have to
each
stay on
person
the
has agrees to stay there X number of
He needs to
years?
stay commercial for 5,
Okay,
or the town has the ability to call it back. And the applicants sign on that.
Mhm.
okay.
But you'll never get it back from Ken.
Why not?
Good luck.
I mean, this committee would have to initiate that request.
Right.
This committee's not going to.
Well, it's still commercial and I plan on keeping it commercial. So you don't have to worry about going after Ken. He'll be all right.
I mean,
All
it's
right.
a difficult thing because it's public, but I think we have to give the applicant a benefit of the doubt a lot of times in terms of what we're gonna do. When Dr. Baker came and applied, I didn't know at the time, I knew after the fact that several members of the committee knew that he had intended on retiring and that he did the improvements to help him do this. And if I'd known that at the time, I probably would have maybe taken a different position in advocating, but we have to give these folks the benefit of the doubt, they come and invest in our community.
Yeah.
So,
I would agree, and I think if it becomes egregious, is that the word?
That's one of the words.
Yeah. If it becomes, then we can, I don't think this is a situation where she's trying to usurp our policy, So,
No, Katie's probably didn't even know what the policy was. She's just trying to get a grant to do a good thing in our community, and welcome to our community, by the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
I
it.
bet we found you about the other day,
Yeah.
right? We went to her and said we got money. No, you knew about TIF when you moved, oh, I think Ken might.
Bruce, who was the real estate agent for Ken,
Oh.
told me about it. So I wasn't sure what was going to be eligible until after we got further down into the paperwork.
Because
so let me ask you a question. So if we decide, so if we pass this at 12,068, can she come back in another year and ask for the other 13?
So the property would be limited to the cap of the 25 grand.
Right,
So she'd get 12 and the property's already got 4,300.
okay,
So you
So,
keep
yeah.
track of her
So-
property.
So if she says after a year from now, I really, blah, 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 we really been able to make all of the facade improvements because of limited money. I mean,
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
see your numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, but reality is that, it'll
you think
be
it's
a-
going to come in higher?
I just painted some of my house and it was only the back and you're gonna be surprised. But anyway,
Okay, okay.
all I'm saying is that, give her a chance to apply. for
I also look at it as she's bringing work to our town.
Yeah.
She's bringing employees, and I know that doesn't correlate with the facade program, but it does in my end.
That's funny, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I think we
It's
all-
not in the program, but,
I think maybe should be added. It should be a little piece that we should add, yeah.
It's in the TIF requirements overall. That's always been there, is bringing business to Main Street. That part is there.
well, if the total to date is not going over 25, Ken could have come in and asked, had a $50,000 project
He could have.
and gotten 25.
He could have.
That would make it, for me, that would make it a tougher issue if it's per property and not per owner. And our town managers point out that it's per property. So that becomes something, but 4 and 12 still isn't 25. So I don't, we probably wouldn't have to reach that issue. And I didn't really remember when Ken's thing was. I knew we'd been talking about it for a while, but it actually was more recent, I guess, than I had remembered. I was thinking it was a couple years ago. Anyway,
Becky, I understand your concern is that, that we should really only be paying for three sizes or 4 sizes.
Stick by our rules.
That's our rule.
Other
That's our
people could come back and say, hey, wait.
Yep, no, I'm just clarifying,
After Gloria's 2 picnic tables.
right, I'm just clarifying.
Well, I was going after the fourth side of the building that's not visible from the traffic way.
Right.
That's what I was remembering.
Right.
So there's always a way for patrons to be able to see the backside of the building. And this committee extended that benefit of the doubt to that. Not visible from the public way, but still granted 100% as opposed to 75.
Customers though, because.
But it's not visible from the public way. It does no improvement for Carmel.
However, we made an exception. And there are no rules without exceptions.
that's a good rule.
Absolutely.
See what I did there?
Right. Sally, do you have a comment that you'd like to? I see you thinking.
Well, sometimes I'm trying to hear what's being said, but I think it would be a nice addition to the town, this business by far. And I'm all for preserving old buildings.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we can get around the all 4 sides, but
We make a motion to approve the whole thing.
Well, okay. And then we discuss it some more.
Okay.
So.
I'm not saying that, I'm just, she asked the question,
Oh.
how we get around that, that's how we get around that.
you know, but whether it would be an ethical thing to do because I certainly wouldn't want to set a precedent so that down the line, someone we might have to do all 4 sides of somebody's place that.
Okay, so you can make a motion if you would like to.
I would like somebody else to make the motion.
Well, it's not just precedent though, just on the 4 sides.
Right.
It's precedent, we're buying chainsaws, and clippers, we're letting them do their own labor. So people coming forward and that much, when it's a small town, everybody does everything. The next person that comes in wants to do all the work by themselves and not give work to our carpenter or electrician or whatever.
I wonder,
We do have lots of electric work going on in the inside and carpenters and so I don't want to say that we're not using anyone
Right.
else. We've got a lot of,
But you see what I'm saying? You're saying you're doing the work yourself, you set the rate, we're buying the tools, which is really a first that anybody's come in and asked us
Yeah,
to buy the saw. To buy, I mean, I just.
I agree
just
with
think
Becky
in
on
nature
those
how it
things,
is
yeah.
that
Yeah,
somebody's fixing up their property and they need,
I was questioning
put it in
a
as a
lot
lump
of that
sum.
also in my mind before coming in about the saw and other tools.
yeah.
And,
Spain, I can't read it, but it looks like there's a whole list.
So I thought it was unusual when I first saw it, and then I thought to myself, is that we bought personal property for applicants before. Not permanent fixtures, personal property that moves around, goes right back to trash bins, umbrella stands, picnic tables. And we've done that. It's not permanent. And I don't know if anybody's tried to find a contractor lately, whether it's an arborist
Yeah.
or a building contractor or anything, but
Mhm.
for $25 an hour, whether they're doing it themselves or paying somebody else, I think that you're stretching that money. And I get the other side of not infusing money into the local economy, but you could easily be looking at $75 or $100 an hour in lieu of that 25. So it's a new employee into town kind of a business. Hopefully there'll be better maintenance of the building
That's
long
right.
term and,
Yeah.
it's untraditional, non-traditional. I was taken aback when I started seeing those things, but we've bought personal property before, and I think the cost savings in the long run outweighs that.
Thank you for bringing that up.
We think it's a good business, it's good to be first in Maine, it's good to get employment, we like everything about it. It's just to me, I get down to precedent and the next person that comes. I also can't read this, is the chainsaw. $400.
$443.
Yep, that's what I found, where we can cut back, like as an example, the dumpsters in the driveway right now. And I think we just needed the one, right? So I think I asked for 2, so that cuts it down. We are getting the boom lift tomorrow to be able to get the trees off the roof, so that's coming. I think we're borrowing my brother-in-law's chainsaw, which means I wouldn't actually have to submit for that. So as long as it comes with the truck when he comes around, then we'll be all right.
Nothing says we have to make a motion for the whole thing, we've done it before when we did everything, but I think there was something at Everett's we wouldn't do.
yeah.
So, yeah, we did heat pumps at Wentworth.
So I'm curious, so if she comes with copies of bills and her labor is more than 2,000, but she didn't use 2 dumpsters, do we still pay? Do we pay them over 2,000? Do we pay up to 12,068 no matter what she does?
No,
Talk about precedent.
within reason.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Right.
I just submit a check request to the select board.
Yeah.
That gets cross-referenced with their submission.
Right.
And whether or not I approve it or not. If you've got labor and it's $22.50 or something like that, and they ask for 2,000, I'm probably gonna put that through as long as it's under project costs.
Okay.
If it's $7,000 worth of labor, it's a double different thing.
Okay.
I think it sounds like I might need the extra in the painter.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking that question. Yeah, you're gonna jinx me.
That's okay. Okay, so anybody else want to comment? Okay, then we need a motion to continue the discussion. Don't look at me, I can't do it.
The things that we want to take out, or you just want to flat do it.
You can do it however you like.
You can make a motion if you got to.
I would make a motion for 3 sides and tools are separate cost. I hear.
I would
make it
second
clear, I
that.
hear everything you're saying about the business and town and everything, but I'm trying to play by the rules.
I would second Becky's motion.
What did she make for a motion?
I don't know what her motion was.
3 sides and
I can't play back.
Yeah.
Richard, play back.
So we're 3/4ing the paint and we're removing all of the tools.
Oh, okay.
and I,
Well, you can't do that. You can't 3/4 the page because the tools are included.
Paint.
Paint.
The motion's made for 3,000.
Is the dumpster considered a tool?
You know, I mean, that's something they would rent. Tool would be something you buy and you have after the fact, you know.
So it's
The shears, the sawzall and the chainsaw.
in the program, the boom rental would be.
Might get
something.
one. Wait,
Yeah, okay,
wait,
so there'd be 3 items, so mopping shears and
the
sawzall,
dumpster for
which is
free.
a 146,
It's already
326,
done.
470,
Positive.
9, 10, 9, 15.
Yeah.
I have to wonder if it's in the applicant's best interest to withdraw the application and go get prices to have other people go complete this work.
So what you're saying is it would behoove her.
It would possibly to call a tree person and say, well, I'm not asking for lopping shears for $146 anymore.
Now I'm asking for.
I'm asking
Well, I was
for
gonna say,
2,000,
right.
so do I have somebody else to do this for me?
And then we would approve it, which is kind of the scary thing.
Right, which is, I get all.
You
of
see
that.
how
Not
they.
supporting local.
So it's nothing personal.
Oh, I know that. I know that. You guys are doing your Zoom business.
And what she's trying to say is we have to stay within the framework of the policy,
Yeah,
or the program, in order to be fair to everyone.
understood. I was, you know, I grew up in Maine and I know I live in Kentucky right now, which kind of makes me from away and I understand that, but I felt like my husband and I are very much do-it-yourself type
Yeah.
of people. And I felt like that would be very much the way to be economical and save money. And we are up here for 2 weeks to accomplish everything we need to accomplish
Good luck.
to get this lab done.
Vacation.
I mean, literally where he's, you know, he's off of work. I do have a job that's remote, so I can log in and I can do some work from, but I have 2 boys. They're 15 and 11. They're down in Kentucky with my mom. And we are doing everything we can to get this done. And within, it's funny that you talk about finding contractors, like make decisions that are within my control, that I can be sure that I have this list, and it's like the project manager in me, right? I have this list and this will be done before we.
And that you're here when they do it.
Yes, that's right, because it makes me so nervous to leave something like that and to not be able to observe it. So I understand what you're saying, and if that's where we land,
I'm not suggesting that, I'm just maybe asking the committee to use a little bit of common sense when considering the guidelines, not the requirements, in terms of the cost of this application. She could have come into place as $25,000 grant application.
Yeah, she could.
And instead she tried to be fiscally prudent.
Yeah.
And efficient in improving her property. And I think that if that's properly demonstrated and included in the minutes of the decision, that it could be acceptable.
I think maybe if she rewrote it so tools are somehow in there, none of our business. It's part of.
But, I mean, she's trying to be transparent with you. I think we're encouraging people to not be transparent or to inflate their costs in order to get the awards.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a really
Yeah.
good point.
I think the thing about the tree is right too.
Because if we're going to start there, and I don't mean, I'm a little frustrated, obviously. But then where do we start? Are we going to prorate the dumpster was that for contents of the house? Was that for brush out back? Was that for siding on the building? It can easily get away from us if we're going to micromanage these folks' projects.
Richard, will Waste Management let a Norridgewock resident take a dumpster for free? And
No, you pay for the delivery rental of the dumpster and they pay for the waste inside, which is.
And that's the same with Greg's disposal, actually. Yeah, they told me that. So I've got the Norridgewock deal for that too.
It comes at a significant reduction.
yeah.
Wow, this is an interesting quandary. So we have a motion. Do I hear a second to and the motion is to pay 3/4 of the cost of the application less the
facade
tools.
sides, right?
Take
The
up
actual facade facing sides
3/4.
per what our rule is.
Did Bruce second it?
I seconded.
So we have a second to the motion.
The project amount with those exclusions is $20,084.50.
That's without the
Thank
tools.
And the 3/4 paint.
Who's in favor?
Fran. So we have a second over here.
Mhm.
Okay, discussion.
I thought that's what we did.
If this motion is voted down,
We have
what
another
would
motion.
the, what would the option?
We have another motion.
Does anybody have an
Done that.
idea what it would be?
While the other, another motion could be pay for the whole thing.
Right.
And I couldn't hear everything Becky was saying, so I'm not real sure. But is this 3,000 taking out the chainsaw and the dumpster and that sort of thing?
Not the
No,
dumpster, the sawzall, the chainsaw, the shears, and we're only paying for the 3/4 of the painting.
Well, not the painting. Not the painting, it would be for everything, right?
No, I just took 3/4 of
Of
the
painting.
paint of the whole house and barn.
Okay, oh yeah, that would make sense.
I think all the windows are different.
So Becky's motion was to have the total 3,000? That doesn't seem like,
She wants to reduce her cost down to $20,084.50, and then we pay half of that instead of $24,137.
Now,
It's following the facade rules where you pay for 3 sides, or the 3 visible sides of the building are paid for.
I have another question. Could she come back in 6 months and say, we couldn't get it all done for that amount of money?
We need a tree guy.
which is gonna have to sit through another one of these.
We need a tree guy.
I mean, we have one business that supplied 3 or 4 times.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting, I'm just trying to look at people's faces. All right, I hear no more discussion. All in favor of Becky's
Motion.
Read the motion.
She made a motion to pay 3/4 of the cost of the painting, and she wants to remove the tools, the chainsaw, the sawzall, and the shears. So she wants to reduce her total cost to $20,084.50, where we would pay $10,042.25 instead of $12,068.
Okay, how much?
We would pay $10,042.25 from what Becky would pay.
She's our banker too.
Richard did most of the math, honestly.
Okay, everybody all set?
The windows in the back and everything,
What's that?
does that, to divide it equally by, the say all sides are equal, does that work for you? Window wise and.
The motion that was just made?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very grateful for anything that you're able to help me with, so I'm not going to.
I'm very political.
Very-
All in favor of Becky's motion, raise your hand.
Becky and
All opposed?
We're gonna figure out if your hand is up or not.
So the motion fails
I'd love to
2 to 4. Do we hear another motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the whole thing.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second,
Okay, is there discussion?
yes. I was very moved by what our, not our applicant nor any member said, is what the town manager said. Actually, which, it's interesting because it's not coming from a member of the committee, but, government should encourage transparency, and I hadn't really looked at it from that angle. But if you sort of nitpick every detail about something, somebody could come in with, $24,999 as the share of close to $50,000 with less specificity than the applicant has put in her petition. And, to sort of say, well, why don't you withdraw all that, redo your numbers, hire out some more stuff. And, and it might not be just for the extra 2,000 or 3,000 that motion would have cut down. It might be for, a $40,000 project where we'd be paying 20. Because I'm sure there's a way of working those numbers, do-it-yourselfer, that making certain exceptions and reservations in there, you could come up with a figure that's a lot higher than that. And your company or you would only be paying half of it. So you'd still be better off to sort of inflate the numbers, which seems to be bad public policy. I don't know. So that's my 2 cents for discussion.
Thank you.
Well, I would just like to say, I don't consider it nitpicking. We've got rules. And it's not, what you're saying makes sense. And it's crazy to go out and do, the way Richard presented it, getting a tree grinder, it makes sense. But then why do you have a written, and particularly a lawyer, why would you have written rules? If you then can say, the way he puts it is so nice.
I appreciate what you're saying.
That's.
And,
And what Richard said before, was we have made
Yeah.
many exceptions to
Right.
this policy before.
We have, yeah.
I think that's really where
That's
it's
the problem right there. We have made many exceptions.
Yes.
Made the same argument.
As Richard says, these are guidelines, not laws. What we use is guidelines. So a guideline is something that has flexibility. Any more discussion?
Well, and lastly, we're not the final say on it.
That's right,
It's up to the board.
That's
We're
exactly.
we're recommenders, board certified recommenders.
Board certified.
Board eligible and board certified recommenders, and so.
Yeah.
The board, the real board, the select board could look at this and say, we're giving away an extra $3,000, fire them all and don't give her the money, so
fire.
we'll be all fired. No more working for
Flags
free, we're
off.
done. What's that?
In that case, why bother having any other boards? Just send it all right to them.
There you go.
Okay, so any more discussion?
Do that on-
Okay. All in favor of paying the 12,068, signify by raising your hand. 2, 3, 4. Okay, all opposed? Okay, and are you abstaining?
Oh, I'm opposing.
Okay, got it. See your hand. Okay, so
Sorry.
the measure passes for the 12,068 now. Was it worth it?
All I can say is that
Well
my
done.
husband is so glad he sent me to this meeting. He is not a talker and I am, and he'll be really upset to know that he could have been watching it this whole time. So. No, I'm not gonna tell him to go find the link.
Well, thank you.
Yes, it was definitely worth it. And I'm really impressed with the robust discussion here. So I
The book you could write.
know.
A small business.
I appreciate it.
It's a curve. I mean, these are guidelines and we're
Yeah.
doing the best we can to spend the money that we've been entrusted to. And we're
Yeah.
not even spending it, the select board spends it.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is great. I really appreciate you allowing me to come in and to answer any questions. And yes, it was absolutely worth it.
Good luck.
We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
All right, am I released?
Thank
You are.
Yeah, enjoy your vacation. Enjoy your vacation.
All right, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Old business, discussion and action on the proposed fencing for Embry Square. Is there anything you'd like to say, boss?
Sure. At the last meeting in July, we had discussed creating some sort of separation of the back end of the Emery Town Square to delineate where or not we wanted folks with vehicles to come into that area and park, thinking that we didn't want them to drive all the way up to the park. So the committee's consensus was to look at installing stone on the backside and also fencing. So what I had estimated was coming off from the existing foundation of the former driving school, going east approximately 60 feet to the edge of the driveway, and then up about 20 feet towards the street. That's what we asked for fencing. That's what's in your map with the dots. Then I also sought a price estimate from Nickerson Yard to install stone in the back. They proposed the ready block, maybe that's what it's called. There's a picture of it in the supplemental packet here. Yep. To show the kind of material that he wanted to use. And would do that in that same area. And then also recommended putting in larger boulders as you move up, just singular boulders to create that separation and limit vehicle traffic. At the same time, he also gave you an option where that foundation is up on the curb. He would be willing to remove that, grade that out, and then put boulders up along the curb to kind of give that a more definitive space. They are two very different proposals.
Yeah, they are.
They accomplish the same, but arguably accomplish the same goal. The Nickerson would create that wall and grade the back of it. That's, that was what we had talked about.
And that would be permanent.
Correct. That would-
Fencing would need to be ripped up and eventually do this.
If we wanted to change it.
Right.
I have another thought, and not only in that, should we just see what happens this year? I mean, could we put it off for a year, or are you thinking that there would be abuse?
So you can put it off for a year. I can tell you that yesterday afternoon, there were 3 ATVs on that lot.
There were.
Just parked there.
I've seen one.
One of them works at the store, I think,
Okay.
but they were 3 separate ones. The only reason I saw them was because somebody called me and said, oh, they had heard I was getting price proposals.
Trail's not open yet.
Right.
I will say a 5 foot tall, all black chain link fence wouldn't look, welcoming.
No.
No, that, I asked for that myself because we need something that's gonna be resistant to weather and things like that. And I didn't think that the cedar fence or white vinyl fence was gonna be your answer. So when you think about a fence, what's your appealing fence gonna be? Uncoated galvanized?
That would look even uglier.
Right.
Do we need a fence?
What's that? Well, that's just what we're saying.
Yeah.
One of the things is we could wait
Yeah,
a year and see what happens.
Where's the price for bolters?
No boulders.
That is included in the retaining wall proposal. And that retaining wall would be along the back,
right.
and then there would be boulders up the side and along the street side, the curb side.
Oh,
Which I didn't even ask for that. That's what he said we should be doing there if you really wanted to do it.
Would look a little bit more.
Yeah. And he said it wasn't.
Artish. Yeah.
Would we get other bids on this? If we decide to go with this design, would we use this?
We can, the disadvantage for the contractor is that
He's got the design.
it's public, yeah.
Been there, done that in my business.
Could he do that this year? Could the fence people do these this year? Okay.
Isn't there another place that makes these? And I don't know if they install them now.
The big blocks.
Yeah, the cement place.
Yeah, so Gagny cement block makes them.
Well, I don't know, is that Gagny and right?
No, Gagny's over in Belgrade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So those are almost double the ones at Gagny.
No, the one, there's somebody that. I
Yeah,
think
but I don't
they
know if he
just
sells
started
them.
Making
per
them,
se.
and he wouldn't install them.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
How high up would you have to have the cement block?
So the cement blocks, I think he was saying it was 4 feet.
4 feet.
And the benefit to that, which is why he proposed this instead of like boulders all along like a rock wall, was it allow you to bring up the slope of the lot from the tree back.
Yeah.
Which is one of the
I
things
like
that we
that
had talked
idea.
about, of getting the utility of that space.
Nickerson is a local person.
I don't think ATVs follow normal rules and regulations of the road for most motor vehicles. And so you need to have something like
As a general comment.
this, yeah. But it's unfortunate.
I would say most people who own a Prius are uppity. So
Oh, well,
the point is that we have to be careful about making comments about group, but I understand what you're saying.
well, another personal experience, if you want to hear it.
I'm not writing it.
I was going down Route 2.
Okay.
And cars were coming in the other direction and an ATV was coming at me in the same direction, only on the other side. And I would normally have moved over a little bit because of all the line of cars that were coming. And couldn't do that because I would run into the bleeding ATV, which did pass my mind a little bit.
So how do you feel about the proposals? The fence or the wall?
I think if we're gonna spend money, let's spend it on something that's gonna be permanent. I
Yeah.
mean, it is quite a bit of money, but
Even if there weren't ATVs, it would look nice.
It would.
Yes.
But what I wonder is, yes, he's local. I
Are there
like the
other
choice, but is one of the other people in town that do the same business? Could be
Like Lynn,
Is it for you? There are other people that do it.
We could get a couple more quotes.
I don't know, do we have any,
I don't know if
I
there's
know there's
anything.
guidelines, but do we have anything in TIF that says you get three? I thought a long time ago I saw something where you got
3 different.
estimates.
And doesn't York's have landscaping also? And design and that kind of thing,
DMO?
or, yeah,
Busy.
That's the other thing, I'm busy. He would do it this year.
All right, any more comments before we have a motion? And then we could have discussion again. Anybody want to make a motion?
Before we get to the motion, the cement blocks would cost 20,500, and the TIF would pay for the whole.
The whole bill would be 23,000 because they're doing the retaining wall and stuff like that too. That includes all their labor, I'm assuming.
So to understand what he's gonna do, he's gonna make a wall in the back
Right.
and then a wall up the side a little bit until it levels out. And then from there, there'll be boulders. He'll remove the cement next to the sidewalk and put boulders there to eliminate any type of access by the ATVs or snowmobiles on every square. I think it'll look nice.
Yeah.
And right away,
Yeah.
they can do anything.
Hmm?
Right away will still be there and they could park 10 in there if they're so inclined. But they couldn't get over our fence. So why doesn't this go all the way
We could have accessed the park somewhere.
Well,
for the front?
right, so you could do it through the front. The problem is that the grade comes up there. And we're not gonna grade the entire lot. It's gonna still have some grade down towards the tree and then it's gonna level out. So there's still a little bit of dimension to it. If we're gonna do it right up to the curb, then it's gonna be like a whole foundation wall over there that's gonna be built up. It's be rather unsightly, I
We
think.
do it, we want people cutting through that way.
No, there's gonna be boulders there. So he's gonna get up just to about the tree. If we move, it would be about to that tree and that's where the grade's gonna come down.
And then the boulders would go all along here
Correct.
and then.
The idea would be they'd be close enough to keep stuff out, but far enough away to let the lawnmower.
Got it.
One more, I think it's tricky.
Motion,
I'm gonna make a motion that we consider doing, that we have Nickerson's
the proposal from
use
Nickerson
this,
Yard.
yes, that we use this proposal for Nickerson. Have that done in Henry Square.
Do we hear a second?
I'll second that.
How does this fit in with our budget for the year? So we just gave, does this tie in with what we just gave to these people? Or this is just other fund, this has nothing to do with facade,
No,
this is just TIF's
just
money,
TIF.
so we.
this is being bucketed as economic development in connection with the rail trail. Because we're prohibited from putting money into parks. So we're regulating access to public space. See how, right?
Yeah.
I think it would look nice too. I think it would really. Yeah. Okay, so we had a discussion. All in favor of Nickerson's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're gonna call it. Unanimous, thank you, everyone. Glad it's good business. Okay, other business.
I have one question.
Yeah.
I was asked this question. And I don't know that I've seen it anywhere, but was any TIF money at all used in, was any TIF money used in the Osula Days activities, either at the airport or the,
No,
I didn't think so, but I wasn't positive.
no, there's a budget line for $2,000 in the regular parks budget. Then the rest of it is done through fundraising and donations. There's $2,000 in the regular parks budget to support Usula Days.
Mhm.
And then the rest of that comes from private donations and sponsorship.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, the operating budget this year for Usula Days, I think we fundraised about $10,000 in addition to the two.
And may I say publicly, well done. I mean, both the Historical Society, and all of it was awesome. It was awesome.
If weather was on our side, we would have 2
Yeah.
good days.
That's amazing.
The airport was very.
I have one other business. I had mentioned that I am working on a mural. Met with the West Somerset Arts Council today. She is going to help me with a grant proposal to put that out. And as this progresses, I'll let you know. But the only thing I want to bring to your attention tonight is that one of the things that she mentioned is partnering with other organizations. So every time we partner with someone, it ups our possibility of getting a grant. I don't know if you found that with your grants that you did for the History House, all the money that you got for that.
History hasn't gotten any grants.
Oh, I thought you
We
got.
haven't applied for any.
Anyway, so all that to say is, if we could, if the TIF committee, if the TIF committee were willing to put in a couple of grand or whatever, it would, and the town might be willing to do some in-kind work, like put the post. Those are all positive things for grant application. So you may see me coming then in a couple of weeks, and I'll put everything together to ask for a little bit of money. 1,000. Just joking. Just joking. So, and I think that would be a great compliment to every square too. Anything else?
The murals that you're talking about, are they gonna like go on the side of buildings like the building here next to?
It would be an Emery Square against the green building, but they would be, we can't put it on the green building because it's not ours. So we would put posts in.
Would the TIF committee have any say in what the subject matter would be, or
What is?
what the subject matter of the mural is?
So the objective for me right now, is to get funding. Once we get the funding sources straightened out, then what we do is we request a proposal from artists, and that'll include public forum for the town to come in and give their ideas, whether we want to do historical things, points of interest, do we want to, there's a whole bunch of things that could happen. Then we tell the artists, this is what we're looking for. And then that will come from public input. I'll let it back.
What happened to the sculpture?
I haven't pursued that.
So this would be a mural, not a mural or a sculpture.
This is a mural. I haven't done anything about this culture. Great idea though. Who does all of the sunflowers and all the people and the
Less than you.
Wow, it's beautiful. Awesome. That looks just great. Thank you.
I was gonna ask a question about security cameras. Have they been installed?
They have.
been.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You mean to the park?
Downtown.
Oh, there's none at the park?
There are none in Usula Park.
That's.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving to the front burner soon.
What's the update on the canoes?
Yeah.
Oh, I have dropped that ball big time. I have fumbled. I should be drawing a quarter. I make a motion that we draw our quarter, John. It was physically, it was a very difficult summer for me. And my helper, who was helping me, my brother, went home in August, and honestly, I am trying to get ready for winter, and it'll happen for next summer, and I apologize. I apologize. Don't ever ask me to do anything again.
Especially for free.
We didn't ask you to raise your hand. You gotta learn not to raise your hand.
I know, I agree,
Same school.
as my wife said. Good,
I move we adjourn.
done. Next meeting, October 25th at 4 o'clock. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.